we're back with Bill Maher from HBO, Real Time with Bill Maher. You know, Bill, there are those who say, well, look, there's a double standard that liberals didn't, you know, when a kid shot up a school, some liberals would say, well, look, it's not video games that you know, that made the kid do it, or a certain type of music, as some conservatives would say. I mean, is there... It seems like the same people who are saying, you know, if a child shoots up a school, don't blame the music videos or don't blame the movies that they watch. Why is it okay to blame the political rhetoric?
Well, I think they're two different things. First of all, I'm not suggesting, I don't know if anybody is suggesting legislating this. We're not saying we should curtail anybody's
well, there is, though, actually, this Democratic congressman now who's from Pennsylvania, I believe, who's suggesting making speech or symbols that seem to threaten a member of Congress basically a federal crime, the same as it is against the president, which would actually have, under his bill, it would outlaw the bullet symbols, the bullseye symbol. You're not supporting that?
I don't know how far it goes. We already have that law. You can't threaten the president. But
you can, I guess, a member... He's saying that the same protection that the president has should be extended to members of Congress about verbal threats or symbolic threats.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend on how the law was worded, but, yeah, I mean, there are infringements on free speech we already have in this country. We all know that. And this may be one case where that would be appropriate. But I don't know if the analogy holds with video games. If you're talking about, for example, after Columbine, we heard a lot about that happened because they took the Bible out of the school and because of Marilyn Manson records and so forth. Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, anybody can be... Ozzy Osbourne, I think, was blamed at one point for something.
Marilyn Manson, I think.
Yeah, I mentioned Manson. Right. I mean, anybody can get ideas from anywhere, and you can't, in a free society, stop ideas from floating around. But again, we're talking about people who are supposed to be responsible members of society. We're talking about Sarah Palin and Governor Perry and members of Congress. These are the leaders. What happened to the adult supervision? That was my point I was trying to make before about the moderates. You know, we're calling on Muslims to have a moderate presence that would take care of their extremists. Where is that in the Republican Party? These adults who will take care of their extremists. I don't see any of it because they're owned by that ring. They can't insult the gun nuts because that's who finances their campaigns, and that's where all the energy, as they would call it, comes. That's their base.
This young man was apparently able to buy a gun. There was an instant background check. He passed it. Should guns be that available? Where do you stand?
Of course not. That's the real scandal of this, is that somebody can go into a sporting goods store and 10 minutes later come out with a gun. Somebody who is this unbalanced. Even people at his college knew he was crazy and didn't want to be near him. How about this for a gun check? Google. Just Google the guy. In 10 minutes, you could read some of his rants and get a pretty good idea where this man was heading.
Do you think, does this say something about mental health systems in America, too? I mean, if people in this class were so quick to identify him as somebody who had mental issues, it doesn't seem like he was getting any help that we know of at this point.
Yes, I think it says a lot about small government, which is the... great sunum bonum of the right, small government. Well, you know, Governor Brewer in Arizona just cut a lot of money from health care programs, among the mental health care programs. And this is what you get from small government. You get someone who is unable to get readily available health care and, and quite easily able to buy a gun. There's your small government for you.
More with Bill Maher on the shooting in Tucson right after the break. Stay with us. President Obama and the First Lady during a moment of silence today in Washington for the victims of the Tucson shootings. More now with Bill Maher. Do you think this will change anything?
I doubt it. I mean, we've seen a number of shootings in the last 10 or so years, and it never really seems to move the needle on that debate. If anything, it encourages the gun lobby, who should really be called the assassins lobby, to rise up before anyone can say anything and cow everybody into not saying a word about gun control. In the 90s, at least this was a debate we used to have about gun control. But that all went away, didn't it, when Al Gore lost Tennessee in the year 2000. The NRA won. Everything on their checklist is done. They own the Republican Party, they own the Supreme Court, and they've cowed the Democratic Party into absolute silence. It would be wonderful if President Obama or somebody from the other party, the opposition party, would say something in support of gun control.
Right now,
we don't have that in this country. We have two parties, but we have one position about guns. They're great, and we just need more of them.
It's interesting, you only really hear about gun control from mayors of cities, like in New York, like in Chicago,
yeah.
and particularly about interstate commerce and the ability to get a gun in one state, bring it across to another state.
Yeah, because, you know, they see victims firsthand. But really, I mean, a Glock 19, is that really for hunting? What else do you hunt with that except people? You know, what civilized society can honestly make the case that you need these assault weapons and automatic weapons? I mean, no other country even considers this.
I'm reading a biography of Lincoln and Jefferson Davis right now, and, you know, Lincoln had horrible things said about him when he was president. I mean, you know, really vicious.
Sure, and
vicious
look what
stuff.
happened to him.
Well,
yeah, and we saw how that ended. You know, and again, let me just reiterate, this guy was a nut. You know, he probably was going to do something. But, you know, the people at his college were afraid of him, and they thought, one of them even said, he's going to bring in a rifle one day. I think it's just interesting to note that at the end of the day, who he did wind up shooting was a Democratic officer of the federal government.
you don't think, you think the fact that she was a Democrat plays a role in this? I mean, because there's no evidence that he was particularly politically motivated. People say he wanted to talk more about philosophy. He wouldn't really engage in political discussions too much. And clearly,
well, I don't know about.
Sorry.
No, I don't agree with that. I mean, from the things I've read, he mentions government being controlling and too big, and government is, you know, this paranoia. I mean, Glenn Beck talks about it all the time. Again, I'm not saying they're equivalent. I'm just saying that I think Glenn Beck is a little off too. And
this guy's a registered
weird
independent. Just for the record.
Who?
The guy's a registered independent.
You're talking about the shooter?
The shooter, yeah.
No. Well, I mean, again, I'm not saying he was a Republican operative who was taking his orders directly from Wasilla. You know, we're not making that case. What we're saying is that, well, first of all, to answer your question specifically, I don't think he was all that apolitical. Yes, he was all over the map. But when you're talking about, you know, treason and the intrusive big government is the enemy and the gold standard stuff, I'm sorry, but a lot of this sounds like an afternoon on right-wing hate radio.
Bill Maher, host of Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO. After the break, we'll talk again with our political panel.